My name is Chuck Dick, and I have the privilege of being the co-chair of the programming committee for CalArb. And one of my specific privileges is to be a host today for another of our series of interviews we call California Conversations. Over the past year and a half, we've had some fascinating interviews, but today is certainly going to be another one of those very interesting personalities that I want to introduce to you and have you get to know a little bit better. One of our newer members of CalArb, Mohamed Egaly. He speaks to us today from Cairo in Egypt, where he is a judge after having spent a period of time here in Southern California pursuing graduate education. But he has a fascinating background, lots of interesting human experiences to share with us. And so, Mohamed, welcome to California Conversations. It's a pleasure to get together with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chuck. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Now, given the time difference, it actually is well into the evening for you, so I should start this by paying you the compliment of thanking you for setting aside your Friday evening hours to have this conversation with me. But tell me a little bit about your educational background in Egypt, and I'm going to pursue that just a bit more before we start talking about California and your graduate degree. So how did you work your way through the educational system, and discuss with us just a bit, how is that a preparatory course to become one with a career in the law?
Yes. So good morning, everyone, for you, or good afternoon. So I was graduated in 2011 with a bachelor degree in law in Egypt, and I took it in the Faculty of Police Academy. And here in Egypt, it's different than California. As I said, it's to be a police officer, you have to study law. So I studied bachelor degree in law, and then I've graduated in 2011 with a grade of very good, which is a different grading system other than the GPA, but I was on the top 1% because I was 12 over 1,500 students. And then I worked as a police officer for 2 years. Then I applied to be a prosecutor, and in 2011 I started working as a prosecutor, and then I worked for 7 years there. I started by working in the cases that is belonging to the human, the personal injuries, murders, things like that, and then I shifted to work on the white collar crimes and fraud crimes, and more regarding the papers and the documents. And then I was appointed as a judge in 2020. Then I applied for a master's degree at USC, University of Southern California. So I then pursued my master's degree there. I stayed for 2 years in the US, and now I returned again back in May 2023, and I started working as a judge again. And I'm working now as a judge on the commercial and civil disputes in a governorate called Ismailia, which is close to Cairo. It's like 1 hour and a half driving. And I'm working essentially on the commercial and compensations and civil disputes.
Well, let's go back because I think it's going to be of some interest to our viewers that as a route to a judgeship, you start by pursuing what sounds to us in our system as a police sciences, but it obviously involved a lot more than that. So when you talk about studying the law in Egypt, maybe you can amplify a little bit about the course study that you had and how that ties in with law enforcement.
Yeah, so here the police, when you take the police science, you have to take bachelor in law. So it's like the JD in the US, the law school in the US. It takes 3 years in the US, but in Egypt it takes 4 years. I studied everything about law, commercial, civil, compensation, anything, like all the branches, real property, evidence, everything. And then I was studying this at the police academy in 4 years. Then I took the bachelor degree in law. But we here like can apply to be a prosecutor if you have a bachelor degree in law. So I applied, and then you can promote yourself. I can promote myself to be a judge after reaching the age of 30.
Here in the United States, we think of judicial appointments as involving some level of politics. Is that true in Egypt? And tell us a little bit about your route to a judgeship.
To be a judge. Okay, no, in Egypt it's not political, but there is some exams to be appointed, and usually all the prosecutor they make a lot of supervisions on our work. They inspect our work all the time to see that we are on the right track. And if a prosecutor is good enough to be a judge, he might be appointed, and the appointment for a judge should be approved from the president of Egypt. So it has many documental and paperwork to be done, and then they investigate also the person himself about his views, his involvement in any corrupted um, uh, activities. So they are checking on the person because he cannot be a judge and have any problem or any involvement with any bad activities. So they usually inspect the person by the police and by um, other system, national securities, and they have paperwork to do for the judge, and then he or she is appointed by the president.
Is there a term of office to which you are appointed, or is it an indefinite appointment?
No, it's an indefinite appointment, but also I can return back to the prosecution. So here in Egypt, the prosecution and the judges are working not together, but it's the same path. So I can change from judge to go to the prosecution again at any time by recommendation of some people, and then I can return back to be a judge from prosecution again, because both are under the supervision of the Ministry of Justice.
Now, you explained the types of cases that you currently are hearing, and if I understood you correctly, it sounds like a mix of both civil disputes where money may be involved, and some criminal cases. Is that correct?
It's not that way. It's a civil more. It's civil for the contracts and the money cases, and some there is some maybe inclusion for criminal acts when it comes to compensation. I only have hearings about criminal cases to just give the compensation. As we here in Egypt, we have different way of compensation. Sometimes we give compensation after the criminal judgment. So if there is, for example, a personal injury and the guy make a report against the other one, and the other one got in jail or something like that, then the first one or the plaintiff can sue him for compensation other than the judgment that he took in the criminal path. So I only review this in the criminal field. But other than that, it's commercial and civil disputes regarding contracts and companies and things like that.
Well, let's shift gears and talk about your decision to pursue graduate education in the United States. Could you just tell us a little bit about your thought processes and what gave rise to your decision to, after you had been appointed a judge, to stop and go pursue graduate education?
Yeah, it was a very nice time in my life, and it's the best decision I think I took. And I wanted to enhance my legal education and knowledge. So I was trying to apply for many scholarships in many universities, and then I got acceptance from the University of Southern California. I wanted to take the 2-year LLM program, which expands the time. Instead of taking the master's only in 1 year, I took a certificate first in 1 year, and then a certificate in American legal studies, and then I took the master's. And to be honest, I feel that this is the most beneficial thing for international student. It may cost a lot of money, but it is still beneficial because my English enhanced, my legal understanding increased, and I understand the common law, especially that in Egypt it's civil law country, so it's different legal system. So I learned, and I took the masters, and I'm still trying to develop myself.
Tell us how you chose to come to California. There are lots of graduate programs in the United States that you could have selected.
Yeah, California, first of all, I like the weather. I hate the cold weather. I don't know, like I can't survive in a cold weather. So California has the same actually weather like Egypt. In Egypt, we always have the good weather like California. So in the beginning, I focused to stay in California to have a good weather, to have a good life, because I believe that when someone is in a good life and a mindset, a good mindset, he can study, he can improve himself. So I applied for many universities, and then when I got to the University of Southern California, I found the rank of the university is high, and I realized that the alumni of USC is one of the strongest alumni community. So I wanted to have connections and networking after the university, not only to study law, also they have great professors. So it was a good experience and it was a good choice.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that. You obviously were very satisfied with your 2 year experience at the University of Southern California, and we're delighted that you chose to be a part of us. But tell me a little bit more about the curriculum you took and why you, as you look back on it, you have such a favorable impression.
Yeah, I took the curriculum was 2 years. The first year is devoted for studying the certificate for legal studies in the U.S. So I took common law subject. I took introduction to the U.S. law. I took legal research, and I took many other subjects like skills and things like that. But for me, the most beneficial thing, the legal research and the introduction to the U.S. law, as in this course, we took like introduction for the evidence for the constitutional law of the U.S. And also in the common law course, we understand it how the cases are going on and how the law is written in the U.S. And as I said, in Egypt, it's civil law, so we always depend on books. So when I render a judgment here, I go to the book first, and then I can go to the Supreme Court case to just prove that I'm right, or to prove my direction in the case, to just persuade the others. But in the US, the Supreme Court cases are binding, all the below courts or all the lower degree courts. So it was great understanding in the beginning to understand how it works before entering and involving in the master's degree itself. Then I took the second year for international business and economic law. I start studying how it goes with international business transactions and the global regulatory compliance and things like that in this area. And it was great for me to understand that. And the first year was very supportive to me. So I recommend this program for anyone who is international student who didn't have any experience before in the legal system in the US.
Tell me a little bit about your classmates. Was it a varied group of students that you were studying with those 2 years?
Yeah, there were a lot of good people there. They are international students mostly. Uh, I think there was in the second year only there was only like 10 students from the US and others are international. So it was good to know people from anywhere, from everywhere of all countries, China, like many places in Asia, many places in Africa, and Peru, Colombia, many places. So it was good to be exposed to this culture. Also, we ask ourselves like, what's the law system that you have? And now I can say that after finishing this master's degree, I have connections in almost everywhere in the world. So it's great actually. It's one of the most beneficial things in the master's degree in the US.
Well, you now have a broad exposure, of course, to the civil law system in Egypt, which you've married up with some introduction to the common law system that we have here in the United States, stemming from our relationship with England. Uh, but I'd be interested from your perspective, how has that dual exposure to both the civil and the common law system equipped you better to do the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, first of all, it makes me more flexible and open to new ideas. So now, if I see a case and it's only about a dispute that is in Egypt, I don't think about the Egyptian law only. I'm thinking about any law that can be applied on this, and I start thinking what I can improve in the Egyptian law. This is the first. And secondly, I also try to understand more about. I took in the master's degree in international arbitration courses, and I took international arbitration and investments, and this allowed me to understand more the international perspective of resolving the disputes all over and everywhere. And since I found that, I tried to have both like directions to understand, to have a better understanding of my cases here in Egypt, and to have the philosophy of law, because it's the same actually philosophy. And that was surprising for me because I realized here in some cases, let's say in real property, I find that the tenant have some rights. It's almost the same rights. It's almost the same duties that's in the US, that is everywhere. So the law philosophy itself, I broadened my understanding about it, and also I am more involved now in arbitration, and I can make some arbitral. Uh, sorry if there is any connection. You hear me?
Yes.
So I can understand. Yeah, I also started to write some articles about that, and this is a good like good option for me.
That's a perfect segue to the business at hand of California arbitration. And I'd be interested, what motivated you to become part of CalArb, and tell us a little bit about your fascination and interest in arbitration generally.
Yeah, first of all, I took international arbitration with Professor Nathan O'Malley. I think you might know him. He's very active member of CalArb. He was giving us the international arbitration course, and I started to be more involved when I took another course of international arbitration and investment, and another course. And then I attended the California CalArb week in March 2023, I think. And it was the best for me. I found many connections. I met many people. I realized that it's a very good community, and I wanted to be more involved in that. And I started to find the whatever the activities that I can make for CalArp, or to be a member in the organization as like in the beginning, and then to write something about the arbitration. I wanted to be more involved in this community. So CalArp for me is the beginning of arbitration to me. So I like it, and I want to be active all the time. I want to help as much as I can. I want to be like I want to volunteer with anything that I can do, when I come to the US, I want to attend any event that CalArb will make. This
Well,
will make me very
California's
happy.
our International Arbitration Week is coming up, not too distant in the future. But this is a
Yeah.
wonderful opportunity to hear from a registrant, a patron, if you will, of the 2023 week. And tell us a little bit more about what you found valuable about the week and what you would share with others who are viewing this as to why they too might want to participate in this program going forward.
Yeah, first and most importantly, the networking, because you can connect with people from everywhere, literally everywhere of the world, and they are in the top career positions in the arbitration, and they can help you. They can give you the way. They can tell you what to do exactly in your, especially if you are starting your career in arbitration or you're in a mid-career in arbitration. It's a good opportunity to network with the people there. I made many people that was working in the arbitration. I had the opportunity to connect with them on LinkedIn, on many other ways, send them emails afterwards, and we also they also referred me to some programs. For example, I met let's say I met someone in the arbitration. He referred me to another program in the arbitration that I can that will be fit to me. So the connection and networking is the most important thing. Secondly, there is a lot of information, a good, useful information that you can take when you attend the arbitration week. I remember I attended a lecture. It was about the housing problems in California and how they are trying to solve. It was, yeah, there is another also another one. I don't really remember the topics, but it was about the arbitration in Hong Kong and how you can have a relation between the arbitration here and there, and also the arbitration in California and how it's expanding and improving itself by the time, and many useful information that you can take in this week.
Well, Mohammed, you are in a bit of a unique position, sitting as a judge in the courts of the land in Egypt, and at the same time having this interest in non-judicial dispute resolution, both international investment arbitration and commercial arbitration. And it obviously is an interesting combination of experiences. I wonder if you could just comment a little bit about that and what have you found is most interesting to you and makes you pursue this?
Thank you. The first thing for me is that arbitration, I find it more internationally. It can fix the problems easier than the cases. It has little less routine. So one of the problems that we face as judges and everywhere, especially in Egypt, let's say, that there is a lot of documents, a lot of paperwork that have to be done before the case arrives to the judge. So this routine, this paperwork, this let's say month and years, sometimes to end the case, makes the job harder for the judge and makes the case worse for the parties that suing each other, because everyone have to apply many paperworks and have to pass or go through many routine procedures so that he or she can win his case. But arbitration is different. It's more flexible. You can appoint actually the arbitrator. So I found that arbitration is interesting to me. It solves many problems easier. Plus, arbitration can be involved in a worldwide disputes. Let's say there is a problem between Egyptian investor and a U.S. investor and Hong Kong, someone from Hong Kong. So the arbitration can fix that, but the local courts cannot fix this dispute. So it's let's say it's the international perspective of the court that I'm working on it now, but it's more wide, it's more broad. Uh, It has its own procedures. So I like the arbitration and how it can solve many disputes nowadays.
Have you been exposed to the international arbitration community in Egypt? And if so, could you share some experiences there?
Yeah, I actually started that once I arrived here. After I arrived to Egypt, I started my work and I started to make some new connections to find something like, let's say, the other version of CalArb, but in Egypt. But I found arbitration organization in Egypt, and I started to connect with the people there. There is a good member in a high position. She called Sana El Hariri. She also supported me to apply for papers there and to write something about the international arbitration and how the partial uh, final awards and how what's the difference between final awards and partial final awards and how it can be applied in Egypt and whether the Egyptian law has anything to interfere the enforcement of the arbitration in Egypt. So I start to think about the arbitration and I start to think the relationship between the arbitration in the US and in Egypt and how if there is arbitral tribunal in Egypt wanted to enforce their decision in Egypt, whether this will be possible or not, what is the obstacles that they may face, and what's the obstacles that they may face in the Egyptian law specifically.
Could you
So I'm
expand
on
on
my
that?
way.
Tell us a little bit more about the enforcement of arbitral
Yeah. So
awards in Egypt.
yeah. So there was I was involved in writing a memo in the beginning about the partial final awards because it's confused about some people are confused about the partial final awards and the final awards. Some partial final awards is just a decision from the arbitral tribunal. It's not a final decision in the case. So we have to make a difference between the partial judgment or the partial award that comes from arbitral tribunal that will make a final judgment in a point. So let's say there is some orders in the middle of the arbitration process. If there is something procedural, then it will not be final. It can be appealed, but then if there is something that is not like an issue that the partial award will make it final, will finalize the decision of the arbitral tribunal in this issue, then this arbitral decision will be final, like a final award.
And does it then you can make an application to the court system to have it confirmed and to
Yeah,
enforce the award?
exactly. And in Egypt also, we have here some arbitral committees that sometimes they have the option to finish the arbitration cases faster than the other cases, so that they are only specialized in the appeal and the procedures and the enforcement of just the arbitral tribunal decisions and awards.
Mohammed, you're at a prime stage in your professional development, but as you look down the road at your future and the opportunities that may exist, I wonder what you see is the role of arbitration and what you see as the opportunity to build upon your contacts with CalArb and the practice in the United States. Dream a little bit with
Yeah.
us.
Okay. So I think the arbitration will be the future of resolving all the international disputes, and the local courts will stop hearing these cases from the beginning because after some years, like from now, we have some cases that have the contract says the arbitration has includes the arbitration clause. So we as a court cannot hear this case. So we just dismiss the case and say, simply say to the parties, like, just go to the arbitration because you had a contract including an arbitration clause. So I think in the future there will never be international dispute outside the arbitration. And for me, as a dream, it's a very close dream to me. I'm studying for the bar exam, so I want to take the bar exam first to be licensed in the US. Then I want to make a connection between arbitral activity in Egypt and CalArb in the US, or arbitration in the US in California. So I can have this, I can take advantage of what I learned and what I have the experience in, to be applying something on the disputes between any investor from the US having investment in Egypt or vice versa. And I already met many people have business in the US, and they are Egyptians, and they have struggled to go to the court. They struggle to talk to lawyers about that. So if I'm bilingual, I have Arabic and English, and I can talk to them. I can just make the arbitration very easy process to the investments of Egyptians and California. So my dream, to make it in one sentence, is to supervise and work on the as a counsel or as arbitrator in the cases or disputes that rise from Egyptian investments in the US, or Arabic investments in the US.
Well, I can't tell you how pleasant it has been to spend some time talking with you in preparation for today's interview, to get to know you a little bit better. It's really very encouraging to see persons of your stature and your talent expressing an interest in alternative dispute resolution generally, but more specifically, international arbitration. And in our particular instance, CalArb. We are delighted to have you as part of our CalArb family, Mohamed. I want
Thank
to
you. I'm honored to be that.
thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time
Thank you.
to be with us today and to sharing us a little bit about your story. We wish you the
Thank
very best. I
Thank you
think
so
all
much.
of us who view this would probably say we're glad you're taking the bar examination, not us. But
Thank you so much.
we understand your commitment and your resolve and wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. It was my honor to meet you, and it was a pleasure. And I was very, very happy to meet you. And thank you so much. Thank you.
You're most welcome,
Thank
Mohamed.
you.